This is a 2008 Mazda MX5 Miata NC1, and this car marked the return of the Miata to the Philippines. Today, we are going to go around the car and we're going to check it out. Let's do this! When Colombian Motor Philippines let go of the Mazda brand in 2004 in favor of the Ford Group Philippines, we lost the availability of the Miata locally. Aside from a handful of gray market NBs, we never truly got the second generation Miata. Luckily, in 2008, Ford Group Philippines decided to bring in the third generation Miata, or the MX5, also known as the NC. And what we have here is one of the very first units that arrive in Philippine shores. The third generation NC Miata, which I'll refer to as the NC from here on, is the largest Miata ever made, and that includes the newer 4th generation ND that I currently drive. That being said, it is still quite a small car since this NC Miata is just a couple of inches bigger than the 2nd generation NB. Now, if a couple of inches makes you insecure, well, it really shouldn't matter. When it comes to weight, yes, the NC is also the heaviest Miata, but this is only 50 pounds heavier than the heaviest 2nd generation NB. At 1,100 kilograms, it's still quite a lightweight car. All Philippine spec NCs that came to our shores are PRHT NC Miatas. PRHT stands for Power Retractable Hardtop, and that's exactly what we have here. We never really got the soft top NC, primarily because of concerns of security and probably some slash stops when it comes to not so secure parking here in the Philippines. The top takes around 12 seconds to put down, and although it's a power retractable hardtop, it's not a fully automatic power retractable hardtop. You see, you have to press on the button in the center of the roof, then unlatch the latch that holds the roof down, and only then can you put the top down in all its mechanical glory, like so. And when you hear the beep, that is what the car telling you that it's already safe to let go of that button. Now, putting the top back up is pretty much the same simple affair. You just have to press the top up button and hold it like so. And once you hear the beep, you can now latch the latch again to make sure that the top has been locked in. Make sure you remember to put the latch back in, because your hardtop might just blow away if you're driving in a fast speed with the latch unlatched. Now, one of the best things that I love about the NC is the fact that when you put the top down, even with this power retractable hardtop, the entire roof disappears from sight. That means that this is an actual true convertible, unlike the newer Mazda MX5 RF that is more of a Targa rather than a convertible. So this gives you that true open air feeling while giving you the security of a hardtop. Now, if you notice, we've operated the hardtop mechanism and it's operated seamlessly, flawlessly. And that is something that I should note, because this is a 13-year-old car and the hardtop is as durable and as smooth as when it came out from the factory. That is Mazda reliability right there for you. The NC Miata is also the first Miata in the country that came with stock 17-inch wheels. However, if you notice, this specific unit no longer has the stock wheels. Instead, the owner decided to upgrade it to these nice looking, beautiful set of 18-inch rims that was custom made straight from the factory of Rota. Now, most people probably don't know, but Rota is a Philippine-based company, and that's why we have access to such customized wheels and designs. When it comes to trunk space, it's quite a given that Miatas don't really have much trunk space. Now for the NC, at least for the models that came to the Philippines, we don't really have a trunk release button that can be found here at the back. Rather, if you want to open your trunk and you are right here at the back, like where I'm standing, you'll need to take your key and put it in the keyhole in order to open your trunk. However, unlike the newer 4th generation ND Miatas in the Philippines that did not come with a trunk release button inside the cabin, this NC came with one. And all you need to do is, well, press the button and that releases your trunk. Now when you release your trunk and you put it up, you will note that inside there is no presence of the retracted roof at all. You see, that's one of the magic of the power retractable hardtop, is that even with the top down, the roof does not take any space from your trunk. Well, not that you've got a lot of space to begin with, because this trunk only has 5 cubic feet of trunk space. Well, the NC Miata may be the biggest Miata, the heaviest Miata, and probably also the tallest Miata ever made. This NC Miata is also one of the most powerful Miatas that came out from the Mazda factory. You see, this 2-liter MZR engine comes out with 166 horsepower at a high 6,700 RPM. You also have 140 pound-feet of torque that is more than enough to motivate this tiny, peppy sports car. And speaking of the tallest Miata, well, yes, the NC Miata is the tallest Miata that was ever made. If you notice, the wheel gap in the wheel arches in this unit is pretty substantial. And well, it has the highest ground clearance amongst all Miatas at around 5 inches of ground clearance. That makes it quite a practical roadster for Manila roads, given the fact that we have quite a lot of rough roads in the country. So yes, it is the tallest, but if you find that the aesthetic is kinda off-putting being so high, well, it is a quick fix because there's a ton of aftermarket lowering springs and coilovers available for the NC Miata. You could always bring it down to your heart's content. Moving inside the interior of the NC Miata, the first thing you will notice is this unit comes with a 6-speed manual transmission. You see, all 3rd generation NC Miatas that came to the Philippines are equipped with a 6-speed manual. Well, it's practically just a 5 speeds with an overdrive, but it is still a smooth shifting shifter. We don't get any automatics here, and that is quite a plus for the NC model. Now, looking at the interior space, you will note that we have a ton of space inside the NC Miata when compared to the 4th generation ND and RF Miata, because those NDs and those RFs, well, they're pretty much tight and wrapped around the driver. And I can attest to that because I actually own one. So here in the NC Miata, you've got quite a good amount of space. Not as much as the NA, but still decent. In fact, you still have your actual glove box that can be found here. And if you notice, the glove box is a decent size. It's practically the same size as most subcompact sedan glove boxes. And you could put a ton of your junk inside that glove box. Now, aside from the passenger side glove box, you also have a center locking storage compartment found in the middle of the 2 seats. Now, this center storage houses one of the fun facts of the NC. You see, the fuel filler opener can't be found in the usual location, normally found on your leg or near the driver door. Instead, if you look around, you won't find the fuel filler opener. So when you're about to run out of gas, you will be panicking because you couldn't open your fuel filler cap. Instead, you have to go inside the center storage area, and there you will find this little ring, and you pull on this ring, and that opens your fuel filler cap. It's a little bit of a weird placement But I understand Mazda's logic in doing this, because you see the center compartment, the center storage is lockable, and so if you want to park your NC with the top down, nobody can mess around with your fuel because it is secretly tucked away from anybody who could see inside your car. It's pretty much a secret fuel filler opener. Now, still staying within the interior space of the NC Miata, you will find that you've got a couple of cup holders found in the center of the car. Now, here's the funny part. You see, you got a couple of cup holders here, and you also have cup holders that can be found here on the door. You've got 4 cup holders in a car that has 2 seats. Now, isn't that funny? You've got only 2 people, a maximum of 2 people who could sit here, and yet you could have as much as 4 drinks between the 2 of you. Well, that kind of shows you that the NC Miata was built during the time when Ford owned Mazda, because if there's one thing I know about Ford, they love their cup holders. So that's why you've got 4 cup holders in a car that only has 2 seats. And now we look towards the instrument gauges of the NC Miata, and you will note here that you have the usual tachometer and the speedometer, but the speedometer has a reading not just for kilometers per hour, you also have a reading for miles per hour, because the NC Miata is pretty much primarily made for the US market, which uses miles per hour. Now, in the center of your tachometer and your speedometer, you have an oil pressure gauge. Now, this is a throwback towards more vintage vehicles and classic cars, but in reality, with today's modern engines, an oil pressure gauge is pretty much a useless gauge to have right in the center of your instrument panel. Well, it is nice to have, at least you know that your car is not failing on you, but then this is still a Mazda, so Mazdas are quite known to be reliable. So, well, it's still a redundant gauge. That's all I'm saying. It is a redundant gauge. And when you look at the infotainment panel, if you will notice, it doesn't really have any of that digital stuff, save for, well, a small strip of digital information showing you your radio station and stuff like that. But this just comes with a CD player, a radio, and pretty much that's it. Also comes with a manual climate control system with circular AC vents, which is pretty reminiscent of a hidden Mickey if you're into that kind of thing. Interior materials are pretty much made of hard plastic, which is pretty standard for Mazda's ethos of just being a lightweight, fun-to-drive sports car, so nothing really special when it comes to that. Another fun fact about the 3rd generation NC Miata is, well, the way you start the car. You see, this is your key fob. It's not really a key fob, it's an actual key. And you put the key inside, all right? And you hear that warning sound. Toot, 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 toot. Thing is, when you turn it on and try to twist the ignition, nothing happens. See? Nothing happens. See, the thing is, in order to start your NC Miata, especially the manual NC Miatas, you have to depress the clutch pedal first. Okay, depress the clutch pedal just to make sure you're not in gear, and that's when you can start your car. So you couldn't just start it just by twisting the key. You have to depress the clutch pedal first. It's found in other cars, but not really mainstream. So that's also a fun fact that I found about the NC Miata. So now that we've pretty much checked out all the fun facts and the features of the NC Miata, let's now take her out for a short drive just to see how this 3rd generation MX5 feels on the road. Let's go for that drive right now. Okay, so we're driving the NC, and the first thing you'll note is when you get in, the seat belt is right on your seat. So regardless of your seat adjustment, it's quite easy to get the seat belt on. So that's a plus. Another thing that I notice with the NC is, well, it is still a decently powered steering wheel. I believe the NC is still a hydraulic power steering wheel. I'm not really too sure about that. Well, the steering wheel is nicely weighted. you got a lot of good feedback from the road, unlike the electric power steering found in the newer Miatas now. The sound of the engine is also glorious. This is all stock. Nothing has been changed by the owner. And I must say that this car sounds better than a stock 4th generation ND Miata. Just has that grunt. Wow. Clutch is a little bit on the heavy side, heavier than my 4th generation ND Miata. It also feels more stable, surprisingly. You know that you are in a substantial car. I mean, Miatas are always, it's lightweight. It feels like it's lightweight, but this feels solid. It feels very solid. Okay, let's try the acceleration between speed bumps. Okay, 2nd gear. Wow! Huh. This car knows how to hold its gears. It's pretty good. Okay, so with the top up, yes, there is quite a good amount of insulation that can be found inside the cabin. Since this is a power retractable hardtop, exterior noise isn't as bad. So yeah, it's pretty decent for a Miata. It doesn't feel like a raw roadster inside, and that's pretty much a good thing, especially if you just want to cruise around town like what I'm doing now and relax and enjoy the drive of your Miata. So yes, this NC is, I would say, the most refined Miata that I've ever driven, and I've driven an NA, an NC, and an ND and an RF. Compared to the RF, the NC is, for me, a little bit more insulated than the retractable fastback. So that is quite surprising. Maybe it's probably the insulation that could be found inside this car. I don't know. But it feels more composed. It feels more refined inside this NC Miata. So yeah, I didn't really get to drive her around well enough because, this is a weekday review. That means that we are in the midst of horrendous Manila traffic. So I'm just staying around here in the village because I don't know if you saw in my video, I got out of the village and yeah, the traffic was like really bad. But overall, even with this short drive around the village, I can say that the NC Miata is probably the most refined, and it has that nice engine tone to it, that nice engine sound, and it has, well, the advantage and security of a hardtop, and also has fantastic driving dynamics as well in terms of steering feel, in terms of acceleration, and, well, engine note. Yeah, so you may say that this is the most grown-up Miata and the most comfortable Miata. I'd probably say the same thing. With hundreds of 4th generation NDs and RF Miatas driving around Philippine roads, as well as the 1st generation Miata NA, driving a well-kept 3rd generation NC Miata like this is one of the most unique ways to experience affordable top-down motoring. Though some people may deride the NC Miata as a boat, it still adheres to Mazda's ethos of driving an affordable top-down sports car. Try to drive one of these. It just might surprise you. Once again, guys, thank you for watching one of my car reviews. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, hit me in the comments below whatever you think about this NC Miata. Anyway, I'm Reagan and I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.